Hello, and thanks for tuning in for another session of Back Porch Catechetics with Dr. Humphreys. In this short video, I'd like to focus on contemplation as one of the three traditional expressions of prayer. I have in mind in particular the sections of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, beginning at paragraph 2709. I strongly encourage you to read the definitions and insights into contemplation offered there. You might be coming to contemplation as part of your theoretical understanding of the expressions of prayer, vocal, meditative, and contemplative. You might also be coming to contemplation as the fourth stage in Lectio Divina, in which you move through reading of Scripture, Lectio, meditation on Scripture, meditatio, offering an oration, oratio, prayer, or finally arriving at contemplatio, contemplation. You might also be thinking of contemplation simply because it's a word that we often use, a verb somehow associated with thinking or knowing. I might contemplate a particular topic or roll something around in my mind. There are a lot of definitions of contemplation. In this short video, I focus on contemplation as the kind of knowing which knows as a whole. That is, I want to separate contemplation from meditation. Vocal prayer and meditative prayer are discursive kinds of thought. They move along a path. In vocal prayer, I typically start at point A and move to B to C to D to E to F, and I just keep going on and on and on until my vocal prayer has finished. In meditation, I try to move everything back to a central focus. If I move from A to B to C, I try to come back to A, and then maybe to A, to F to G, and back to A, so that the pattern is not a line extending on, but a series of loops which return back to the central concept or focus of my meditation. In contemplation, my way of understanding is not to move through anything, but to grasp as a whole. These expressions of prayer correspond to different ways that we have of expressing our relationships with our close friends. Vocal prayer would correspond to the times in which we might stay up and talk the night away. Meditative prayer would correspond to the time when we can answer with just one word or gesture. How was your day? Humph. As opposed to, it was wonderful. Contemplation corresponds to that time in a friendship when to say anything would be to ruin the moment. In that sense, the most powerful parallel or word to describe contemplation for me is silence or stillness. It's not so much that in contemplation I try not to have a thought. It's that in contemplation, thinking is not my goal. Being with God is my goal. And in this sense, we remember that St. Teresa speaks of contemplation as a close sharing. And the Cour of Ars speaks about gazing upon God and God gazing upon him. That is, contemplative prayer is not so much about what I say or even what I do, but the reality that I am present with God, simply resting in him. If we're attempting to come to contemplation out of a moment of contemplation, a plan that I'd like to sit and have 15 minutes of contemplation each day, then there are a number of techniques which are helpful for focusing the mind, clearing the thoughts. Breathing exercises and posture are important for these. If we're thinking of contemplation in terms of that fourth stage in our cycle of Lectio Divina, then the rest ought to arrive from our return to God in prayer, from that oration, which might be short or might be long, but ought to lead us into resting with God. I often think of the distinction between meditation and contemplation as the distinction between the aha moment of meditation, I realize it, aha, and the ah moment of contemplation, when I rest in the truth I have realized. There's quite a bit to say about who's active in contemplation. Am I seeking out to God? Am I putting myself at rest or at stillness? Or is God working within me to calm me, to speak in the depths, where no words are possible. Both are traditional reflections on contemplation, and I think many of the deepest saints will allow us to see that they are parts of the same reality or the same expression of prayer. You'll notice that this definition of contemplation, that it is a resting or stillness, is at odds with the way that we sometimes use the term. People might say, "That's a great idea. I'd like to contemplate on it." And in this sense of expressing prayer as a gaze, a resting, a being with God, then there's no proper subject of your mental activity. You're not contemplating on something. You're contemplating with someone. Again, the distinction would be between whether I'm having thoughts and moving through them, or looping them back to a central concept, or whether my goal is to be present with God, to sit in stillness and gaze upon the one who first loved me.